Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good day. Right, so we'll just jump right into it. We've had a little bit of, interesting conversations for the past few minutes and hours. But of course, thank you for staying in. I mean, once I saw that this session was competing with SBI and the other one on FOI, of course, I knew that you have a tough choice to make to decide which to sit, and that's what summer conference, we have to solve that anyway. But it's just having those kind of rich conversations day in, day out, and to enrich our knowledge. So, I hope that you take the most of this session, because it's unlike my competitors. We're having a conversation that is cross-border and multi-layered. So we are treating trade data, we are treating AI, and we are treating OSINT. I'm not sure if we have enough time to go into all the conversations, but I'm going to be hosting the conversation. My name is Adeolu. I'm the project manager at the CIJ for the Open Climate Reporting Initiative. With me on the panel who are going to be speaking is Paulina. She's going to be speaking on a story she did with her colleague Maya, and will be telling us how she used open source intelligence to, do that story. Also is Freda, who is on the panel too as well, who is going to be telling us the AI tools that she was able to use to do a flooding story in Nigeria. And last but not least is Eduardo, who is an Italian investigative journalist, who is going to be telling us a story around how he used trade data, story funded, supported by JournalismFund Europe. He used trade data to map out, how weapons were making their way to Russia in the midst of, sanctions and so on and so forth. So you can see that the blend, it's cross-border, as you would see once they start their presentation. Each person is going to speak for 10 minutes. I would have maybe follow-up questions for them, and that's if we have enough time. And then we'll move to the audience. So Paulina?
Yes. All right, thank you so much for that introduction. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Paulina Bachlikova. I'm a Canadian freelance journalist based in Copenhagen. When I timed this, it was 10 minutes and 30 seconds. So I hope that I'll stick within that. So first of all, up to 2.8 million OnlyFans creators have their explicit content stolen, shared, and resold on a regular basis. Most of these people are women, and lawyers agree that this is sexual abuse. So before I continue, I will be talking about sexual abuse and graphic material in this presentation. I won't show anything, but just so that you're aware and so you can decide if you want to stay or if maybe this is one to sit out. As a bit of context, OnlyFans is a subscription-based platform where you can pay to see photos and videos from content creators. It's also an English website, funnily enough. Most of the stuff on OnlyFans is explicit, so most of the creators are either sex workers or explicit erotic content creators. The latest numbers show that there's around 4 million creators on the platform, and it is up to 70% of them who have all of their stuff stolen and kind of spread around the internet. And I think it's important to emphasize that it's sexual abuse legally, because often this gets treated as another form of pirating or as an occupational hazard. Well, no, actually legally it is sexual abuse, and the consequences can be very, very serious for these women. Oh, sorry. All right, so this is part of a cross-border investigation I've been on for about a year now, supported by Journalism Fund. It's called From OnlyFans to Only Scams. Here is a selection of the articles that we worked on, and we're an all-female team. It's myself from Denmark, Kristina Bomer from Slovakia, Apolina Ryšlikova from Czechia, Maja Chernobylskaya from Germany, and Vanya Maya from Portugal. So we're all working together. And the story that I will be talking about today is one that only Maya and I worked on for a German media called Taz. The title is Google translated, so if that's why the wording seems a bit clunky. But essentially, when we learned about this rampant theft of content, we also quickly learned about the subculture around OnlyFans stolen content that the perpetrators call leaks. So it's primarily young men and boys who are in the subculture, and it's happening all across the internet in both public and private forums. Telegram groups, Reddit, threads, Discord servers, you name it. And one of the stunning things is the scale of it. So to give you an example, in our investigation, we found dozens of these kinds of groups, and in each one there's thousands of members, and that was just like one day of cherry picking with no actual, rhyme or reason. There's so many of these groups. So our initial hypothesis was that this is driven by misogyny, that in kind of a subconscious way, it's a way to take back power from women who are putting up a paywall to something that perhaps these leakers feel entitled to, which is viewing their bodies. But then we got a tip from a cybercrime investigator about a company that is very comfortably making money off of OnlyFans leaks in kind of an automated way. The company is not called Company P. We know the name. We decided to refrain from publishing the company's name for two reasons. Number one, we didn't want to inspire copycats, like somebody else mentioned this morning. And also, there is a legal proceeding happening against this company, so we didn't want to compromise whatever's happening there. This is taken from their website to explain how they work. To be honest, I really practiced figuring out how to explain it to you because it's quite technical. So the best metaphor I've come up with is, imagine that Company P is an octopus, and at the end of all its tentacles, they have file hosting providers. So imagine Dropbox, but like sketchy versions of Dropbox where you can upload abusive material. And every time that somebody on the internet wants to download some files from one of these sketchy Dropboxes, Company P makes money because they charge subscription fees for that content. That's the main gist of how they work. If you have more questions, reach me afterwards. I don't have time to get into the full structure, but that's overall how it is. So we wanted to find out how have they gotten away with monetizing sexual abuse for so many years, because we quickly learned they've been around since 2012. Who are the people involved? That wasn't very obvious. How much money are they actually making? And do they know how their abusive business model affects the women on the receiving end? So to do this, we used a bunch of OSINT tools, not like really one big one, and we also, well, not myself, but my colleague went undercover on Telegram, and we also kind of corroborated what we found through expert interviews, where we would, run our information by a lawyer to see, is this just interesting information or is it actually incriminating information? But the first tool I will highlight as one of the most successful things that we did was watching about 15 hours of YouTube videos. Because one of the things that this company does is they kind of act like a school for people who want to learn how to steal content and make money off of it. So they have tutorials on YouTube, like tons of them. And here's where Maya and I got lucky, because this company is run by Russian-speaking men, and both Maya and I speak Russian. So we were able to actually, between us, watch all of their videos in English and Russian. And the reason that we did this was we wanted to see if we would see or hear anything that answered our questions or would spark further interest. Here's our super organized Excel sheet where we have the videos, the titles, the notes, and also we just made sure to download all of the videos to our own drive because we thought they might take them down. And it did pay off. For example, two things that we learned. I often heard them use the term donors for their websites. They would never say websites they steal from, ever. And when I ran that info by a lawyer, it turns out this is intentional, because if court proceedings were ever to happen, this company could say, well, no, we weren't aware that we were stealing content. We thought these websites were donating it to us. Sounds far-fetched, but apparently legally there is kind of method to the madness. Another thing that we noticed, which led us to another finding in an undercover way, is they would often talk about choosing the file hosting provider you post your content to based on the niche that your content falls into. And I was like, okay, what kind of niche? I mean, it's stolen OnlyFans content, that's niche enough. But then my colleague Maya went undercover on Telegram. So she found a closed Telegram group for this company on a search engine called DuckDuckGo. We made the decision that it was ethically sound to go undercover. If you have questions about this, please reach out afterwards. But so she pretended to be somebody interested in making money with company P, like a student. And one of the first things she asked the group owner was, okay, well, you know, what kind of content should I put and where based on the niche that it fits into? And he sent her this file. Also, please don't take photos of this if you can refrain. But this is basically a list of forums that they suggest that you post your content to. And we had to go through all of these. And what we found here, we learned three things. Number one, it's not just OnlyFans leaks they're making money off of, it's also much more violent image-based sexual abuse, like real rapes, for example. Number two, they're very aware of what kind of files they're dealing with. It's not a matter of them being middlemen who are just eyes closed, letting people upload whatever they want. They know that they are trading in various types of illicit content. And number three, this also kind of gave us a portrait of what kind of people we're dealing with, which then, you know, kind of informed like the safety approaches that we took in this investigation, or again, do we name them or not? I think this moved them into a different category of perpetrator for us, which helped with storytelling, but also just, yeah, our own process. Honorable mention of a tool that we used was social media search. We found the name of one of the business owners quite quickly, but we couldn't find much about him, and we tried to find him on all the social media profiles using, you know, typing his name in English, Ukrainian, Russian, nothing. But then we remembered, you know, many of us have social media, and back in the day, we all kind of got some social media that maybe we've forgotten that we have, or that we don't use anymore. And we thought, well, what if this guy has one of those social media accounts? Sure enough, he did. This is a website called Adekola, which is a very, very old Russian social media site that a lot of people had, everyone forgot that they has, including him. So he had, you know, made sure you can't find him anywhere. But on Adekola, we found his birth date, where he's from, the groups that he was interested in, and all this kind of stuff. So that was a very nice win. So what did we end up finding out? We found out how they mostly stay in the clear legally, to what extent they're aware that they're committing image-based sexual abuse and breaking the law. They're very aware. How they make money, although we couldn't verify the amount, unfortunately. How they get others in on the business model. Why police can't do that much, but what it would actually take to prosecute them. And in terms of results, as I mentioned, like near us starting to publish this, legal proceedings were opened against them in Denmark. And we basically handed everything that we found over to the lawyers that are involved because we had been working with them anyway. So hopefully they will help, although proceedings are still ongoing. I checked yesterday. So yeah. We'll see what happens. Final note, if you're dealing with traumatic imagery online, if you have to look at the slop of stuff you don't want to look at, what really saved my mental health was downloading a Chrome extension called Blur, which blurs everything out. It's a super simple solution, or it sounds like it, but it really, that's what kept me sane throughout this investigation. And yeah, thanks a lot. You can reach me here, and if you have any questions, I'll also be around today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Wow, super fast. Thank you. Right, before we go to Efreda, I'll just quickly, you know, ask you the question I have. So from reading your story, I could also see that there was kind of like a web of sources that you used. You had sources from Germany. You had, you know, the content removal company that was in Singapore, and even the peculiarity of Company P, right? So can you just talk us through how you were able to, you and your team, how you were able to map out all those sources and stakeholders and how it came together in the story?
Yeah, sure. I think the first honest question is that we didn't really have an organized mapping. It sort of went organically. I think that in a way we were lucky because this is such a huge problem. OnlyFans leaks that, for example, a counter industry of these content removal companies exists, and they're very, very easy to find. So for instance, you know, I'd have a creator who would tell me about one company that she uses. I'd have a creator who would tell me, you know, that she would find her photos on this specific website. So the web sort of grew and grew and grew the further we went. And then everything around Company P, that is literally just because of that one tip from that cybercrime investigator. So we didn't know what we would find, so there wasn't much of an idea of who we should look for. But in a way, they all tied together quite well, if that answers your question.
Fair enough, fair enough. Right, thank you. So Efreda, please, you're next.
Yes, my name is Elfrida. I'm the founder of the Colonies Report, UK and Africa. We also have a tech organization called Jonatech, where we train journalists, newsroom professionals on ethical use of AI and various tools they could use for their investigation. So today I'll be talking about our investigation that we use AI. So my topic is using AI tools and techniques in investigative journalism. So just a brief about this our report. This Colonies Report, UK and Africa, is a small newsroom with no external funding. So we actually use AI to analyze over 3,000 pages of documents. We also use AI the same AI to fact check same document, to unravel Nigerian government funding. And then this AI helps us to actually save time. As a small, like I mentioned before, as a small newsroom with no external funding, we actually lack a lot of resources, manpower resources, and so many that will help us to quickly get this work done. But with the use of AI technology, it was easier and faster for us to actually publish our story. When I mean easier, it's not like it was easier, as I've said it, like within 1 week or 2 weeks. No, this story started in February 2025, but we published it in October 2025. I'm not mistaken, it's October here or September late, but within that period, we published this story. So what happened? So this particular investigation, when we started this investigation, we never had AI in mind. It was all about writing about the issue on flood in Nigeria, because we cover more environmental climate issues. So while we were doing this investigation, as of February, there was nothing like flood, it has subsided, nothing like that. But then we had a pause because some of the claimed that the people they claimed we didn't have the evidence, and we decided to start digging. And when we used three tools to do this investigation. We use ChatGPT, we use Gemini, we use Copilot. But the two major tools we used were ChatGPT and Gemini, because we are paying for it. But Copilot, we just use it for minor stuff. We are not paying for it, so it couldn't give us what we actually need. But for ChatGPT, the tricks that we used was that when we finish our investigation, when we've written the story, we threw it into ChatGPT and asked it like a prompt to ask it that we are doing this in particular investigation in this community. What is missing? Where can we get more evidence concerning what we are actually working on, including funding? And he recommended so many, don't just recommend also give us sources, because when we say give us, we'll tell you give us the source where we actually have this information. So he brought out government website, different government website that we actually forgot that they even exist, but they are existing, but just like it skipped our mind like a small newsroom. So we went to the government, state government, we went to federal, state government, also looked at donor organizations to see whether there could be something we could add, even though we didn't see something that we could add, but then majority from government funding. So when we brought out the evidence, some of them were in PDF, some of them we are, mostly we are in PDF, but some of them we actually use JPEG format, save it and put it as a PDF. So by the time we got all this information, we now looked at it. It's a huge file. Imagine analyzing 3,000 pages of document. What it means I have to go through, for you to get information, you need to go through page by page, line by line. Even if you're using PDF extractor, you cannot even get it the way you want it. So what we did is that we started using ChatGPT to tell us the particular page that this particular amount was spent and what date. And once we used it, we uploaded the document. Remember, we are using a paid version, so it allows us to upload the document. So uploaded the document, and he brought it out and told us where the page is. Then Similar thing was actually done to Gemini. Gemini too told us where the page is, told us where the lines, where to get it. But something happened when we were asked, because we need to fact check the investigation, the ChatGPT investigation, the prompt, and then the result from ChatGPT and Gemini. When ChatGPT brought out a particular information from a particular community, particular amount, and we now asked it to show us the particular page, and it showed us the page. When we went to the page to find ourselves, the money, the amount it mentioned was not there. We said this is not correct. We told you this is not correct. Then we went back to Gemini, the same prompt, the same question, everything, and Gemini told us where to get it. So when we got there to verify on our own, because we use ChatGPT to help us to quickly get to it, but then we have to verify, human verification. That's where human is always on the loop. So when we got to the page, we saw exactly what we are looking for, and we went back to ChatGPT. So the amount you mentioned is wrong, and we told you where the page is, and now it does now. It's thinking and came back and said yes, we are correct. That's number one. So another thing that we actually did that that took us our time, because some of these government funding, when they upload it, they use PDF. Sometimes they use image files, image format rather. So this particular funding was was actually used. They used image format, JPEG, something like that, to upload it. And we asked ChatGPT to tell us the same, because it's just one community, but they want to understand the various funding that was actually used, to tell us where the funding was and how much and which community benefited. And ChatGPT scanned that document. It took more than 20 minutes, no result. Unlike before, it would bring like within 2 seconds, 3 seconds to bring result. No result. Then I asked, what is wasting time? He said this particular document would take a lot of time because they use image file. That was why I knew that it was image file. I didn't pay attention to it. I just saw it as a normal file, PDF file, but I didn't know that it was image that was actually used to turn into PDF. That it would take us time. I said, okay, can I go ahead and do other things? He said, yeah, go ahead and do other things. I tell you that, he told me that, okay, I will come back, I will let you know once it's ready. You know, ChatGPT, I don't know if you pay attention to it. If you're doing something and you leave it, it will bring out something like a red or green light at the left where you have some of the work you have done. So if you just leave it and do other things, you see that when you see that line, you know that it has brought out something that you requested. So it didn't give me. And I went back to Gemini. That's why Gemini played a good trick. I went down to Gemini and the same prompt, everything. Within less than 3 seconds, Gemini brought it out for me. So Gemini was able to extract the information we want. I went there and saw it. And I was shocked. So when I came back, it took even 1 week. Even after I finished that investigation up to today, ChatGPT could not give me this particular information because it was not, probably when they were developing it, they didn't pay attention to such. But Gemini was able to do that. And that's how we actually did. We need to point out some of the issues concerning legal issues, because as a small newsroom, we don't have the big funding to start looking for legal lawyers or legal practitioners to verify our work, to avoid any legal issues. So what we did is that we actually asked it to look at the story we have written, what are our voice, our choice of voice, to point out any areas that it could actually, both Gemini and ChatGPT, to point out any areas that could get us into trouble. Yes, so he said, okay. So he looked at it, was actually okay, but we did it, but just wanted to be sure that this is exactly in case of anything, because we've done it before, and he pointed out areas, stories language we use, or choice of what we use that actually get us into trouble. Even when we use alleged, sometimes we are alleging, but then some particular words might not be actually good in the legal aspect. So, and that is exactly what we did. But a co-pilot, it was just basically mainly for like editing, check the work. It was nothing too more, but then it was part of the investigation. So when we published this investigation, we sent it out, and it got a lot of attention. The Writers Institute of Journalism reached out to us. They want to understand how a small newsroom could actually use AI to do such an investigation. And then we interviewed them. They interviewed us rather. We got a lot of people reaching out to us. Like 2 weeks ago, a researcher from Oxford reached out to us to interview us. A professor from forgotten the name, but it's the name of these public professors, reached out to me particularly to interview me about the particular story. So, but once something happened, when we did this investigation, and we saw the power of AI as a small newsroom, what we actually did was that we decided to build our own platform called News Assist AI. So if you scan it, you can see, you can have access to it. So I'm the developer of News Assist AI. So what this News Assist AI does, it helps journalists to quickly transcribe your work. Currently, because this is actually free, we'll soon roll out the paid version. But for now, you can upload at least 30 minutes, not more than 30 minutes at a go. You can transcribe it. You can translate it. That's 16 languages. But then you can actually, if you can use any language that has within the GCP to transcribe it. You can also analyze the document. So 2 weeks ago, there is this editor. If I call the name, people will know the name. Editor, the media, big editor, called me and said they want to use our platform to translate a document, and a sensitive document are saved to our platform. I told them when we are building this tool, because we understand and know our journalists and the issue that journalists face in terms of release, where journalist document will come out before the publication gets into trouble. So we ensure that we don't store your document or whatever you're doing, even your transcription, you don't store it on our back end. It stays with you. The only thing is that the AI will only read it and give you the information you need. And he said, okay. And he called later, about 2 hours later, he told me that every day you guys have a good tool, that I translated 16 pages of document. It is not in English. He used different language that we don't have, but then he translated it in English, and he said, we compared it to, he called one big name, something DL, something like that, I've forgotten the name. We compared it to the translator of this particular company, and exactly what you got, that's what he gives us. We are going to use this your platform. So I was so excited about it. So I said, okay, I want to share it with you. This was the outcome of our investigation that actually brought out for us to bring News Assist AI. And the good aspect is that it is not, we focus on journalists, build it for journalists, but now it's also used by legal practitioners, like immigration lawyers are using it, security personnel agency, people using audio, researchers can also use it too. So you can use it and try it. You can also give us feedback if you think that it's not giving you what you want. You build it to not go and hallucinate different things. So it is using your own platform, your own words, your own document to produce, to fine-tune what you want. It will not bring any other document. You can try it and ask it. If you ask other AI platform, who is the founder of Meta, to tell you, but ask our own to not tell, because it's not trained to tell you something that you didn't give it to it. So that is exactly what is.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot. I didn't prepare any slides because I'm not really a fan myself, but I hope you can still follow along. My name is Edoardo Anziano. I'm an investigative reporter at IRPI Media, which is the investigative reporting center, non-profit center in Italy. Over the past 2 years, we've been partnering with other newsroom, mainly The Insider in Russia, and with the freelancer journalists like Sergei Panov to investigate sanctions elusion. I will tell you later why I'm talking about elusion and not evasion of sanctions. We focus particularly, and thanks to the support of Journalism Fund as well, on weapons. So like how European-produced weapons are still flowing through Russia despite sanctions and embargo, and how third countries are used to triangulate weapons that still reach Russia and still reinforce their military supplies. I don't want to focus too much on the findings of our investigation, but rather try to talk about the concepts that are behind using trade data, which I understand it's not the most fun topic but can be actually very vital and crucial to your investigations as well. Basically, using trade data, we were able to prove that one of the biggest and most famous Italian weapons producer, it's called Beretta, and it's probably famous worldwide as well, was still exporting weapons and ammunition to Russia, despite the embargo that has been existing since the occupation of Crimea in 2014. We also discovered that Beretta owns, and still own to the date, a Russian importer called Russian Orel. It's based in Moscow, and it was used by Beretta to import their own produced weapons. We also looked at general flaws of weapons using aggregated data. We could see that all of a sudden after February 2022, Italy started to sell weapons and ammunition to countries it had never traded with before, like Armenia or Kyrgyzstan. Those countries saw a boom up to 1,000% in the number of weapons and ammunition that were coming from Italy, and from there they were exported to Russia because former Soviet countries had particular treaties in place, so they are not obliged to map and to trace the flow of goods between the countries. So basically, when weapons would end up in Armenia or Kyrgyzstan, then you and if they would then end in Russia, you would completely lose track of it. And this, again, it's a way to elude sanctions. So these were the main findings we were able to get from our investigations. But as I said, I would like to focus on the concepts behind using trade data. And the first thing I would like maybe to ask is, has any of you ever used trade data for investigations? A few of you, yes. I'm going to start with what are trade data for those who never used it. Basically, trade data look like big spreadsheets. And in the spreadsheets, you can find information like the countries involved in the trade. You can find a description of the product that is either exported or imported. You can find something that is very important. So what are the companies? So who are the suppliers? Who are the buyers of those goods? You can find the date, so the date when a certain good has entered or exited a certain country, which is also pretty important, as we'll see later. And you can find something called HS code. So HS code is basically the most crucial part of trade data, I believe. It stands for harmonized codes, a harmonized system, and it's a series of digits that specifically identify one good. For instance, if you're talking about arms and ammunitions, the HS code is 93. But if you're talking about military arms, it's 9301. Instead, if you're talking about revolvers, is 9302. And the digits go on, and you can really precisely identify very specific type of goods that are entering or exiting a country. So the first tip I would give is know your HS code. So know precisely what you're trying to track. It's not just in general weapons, but it's maybe a precise type of weapon, it's a precise type of ammunition, and just Googling it, you can find what HS code is attached to what product description. So make sure you specifically know what you're tracking. Moving on is the most problematic thing, I think, when it comes to trade data, which is where to find trade data. Unlike corporate documents, for instance, trade data are very expensive and unfortunately are owned by very few private companies that sometimes give this discount to journalists. But anyways, these data are kept private and are mostly used by the industry, not by journalists. Just to give you a few names, maybe you've used it in the past, but Import Genius is the most famous one. There is also Sayari, is S-A-Y-A-R-I, which is really good. We've used it in the past many times, but it's also very, very expensive. So yeah, the problem is that trade data are not easily available. There are some workarounds. So the other tip I would give is look into the specific legislation of the country you're interested in. For instance, in Italy, it's possible to send a freedom of information request to custom administration and retrieve not only trade data, but also the bills of lading. So the original documents that are behind the aggregated trade data. So what's presented to you in a spreadsheet by a private company, it's sourced from documents, bills of lading that are used to exchange goods between companies. So if you get your hands on bills of lading, then you don't need trade data, aggregated third-party trade data. So you can send freedom of information requests in certain countries and obtain the bills of lading, which are basically the raw material behind the trade data. In some countries, this is not possible. There are some country-specific workarounds. For instance, in the case of the weapons we were investigating, the Beretta-produced weapon, we realized that Russia has a public body called ROS accreditation, and it's basically responsible for certifying the dangerous goods that are entering the country. So for instance, we could find on their website documents called Certificate of Conformity. It basically proves that the weapons that are entering the country are up to certain international standards. But on those documents, we could see, the name of the weapons and the producer. So although we lacked trade data that were proving that Beretta-produced weapons were entering the country, we could see from those documents that those weapons actually entered the country, because the public body in Russia was saying, yes, those weapons that enter the country are up to international standards. It's called ROS accreditation. I don't know if it's still online. A year ago when we did the investigation, it was. And that worked pretty well for us as a workaround. So look for your workaround in the countries you're interested in. And then if you're talking about sanctions, both the EU, but also the UK, I checked yesterday, they publish lists of HS code that are under sanction for different sanctions regime. For instance, the UK has something called a common high priority list, and I believe it's shared with the EU as well. I don't know if they are actually the same list, but it basically lists down HS code for critical materials that are used by Russia to produce weapons and drones, for instance. So you know what specific HS code are under sanctions, and you know from when they are under sanctions. So these are my tips for what it concerns sanctions regime. Look for the HS code, look if they are sanctioned, and especially look when they were sanctioned. Not only when the sanction was announced publicly, but from when it came into force. That's pretty crucial if you want to prove sanctions elusion. So to say that that actual shipment was illegal or was eluding sanctions because by the time it reached Russia, sanctions were in place, you need to know exactly when those goods were sanctioned. And from experience, it can be much harder than what it sounds. It can be very difficult to pinpoint the exact date and the exact HS codes that were sanctions, at least for what concerned European Union bureaucracy. And when I'm talking about the dates when sanctions entered in place, it's pretty important to double check third-party trade data. We found mistakes in shipments, so dates that were not correct or didn't match original bills of lading, because again, those data are aggregated by commercial third party. Mistakes are possible, so try not to rely only on those aggregated trade data. And most importantly, probably be aware of pre-existing contracts. Sanctions are valid unless the contracts between the companies were signed before the sanctions would enter in place. So unless you have the original contract, then you're not able to say that that shipment was an evasion of sanctions. You might say that it's an elusion of sanctions. So yeah, make sure to look for the contracts. I know that it's pretty difficult. They might only come through leaks or internal sources, but that's pretty important. And I think the last thing I'm going to say is try to look for suspicious shipments, not just at specific levels from one company to another, but you can look for flaws and general trade. So if you look for trends using aggregated trade data, I didn't mention, but there is a platform called Comtrade by the United Nations. It aggregates specific shipments, so you can see if you're interested in a specific HS code, like let's say military weapons, you can see how many went from a country to another in a specific year. Of course, you cannot see who are the suppliers, who are the buyers, but you can see general trends. Look for suspicious trends. For instance, I see Radek from Earthside here. They did a great investigation into Russian wood, abating sanctions and reaching Europe. They could see that, for instance, Kazakhstan, which is basically a country that does not have forest, all of a sudden started to export Kazakh wood to Italy and to other European countries. That's suspicious. Kazakhstan doesn't have many forests, so likely those are coming to Russia. So you can look for suspicious trades as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Fantastic. I was going to ask you something about the United Nations Community Trade Statistics Database, which you have now then mentioned. But I also want to ask, and what jumps at me, obviously, is what you've also raised about being suspicious. And I think that is, yes, the tools are fantastic, all the glitz, the AI and all that, but I think one of the most important skills we have as journalists and investigative journalists is that curiosity. And if I piggyback on what Paul too said during his presentation on AI, and what Efreda has said is, even though AI can get you to a point, as a journalist, it's your experience, your skill set has to still be used side by side, these tools and techniques. So for Eduardo, I would like to ask that, so for example, when you were getting out the data, how did you make sense out of it? Because sometimes you're doing a story, you get so much data, you get lost in it. So what specific ways did you kind of like make it make sense to tell a story?
Yeah, so I think for us it was very much manual Excel labor. So we really we took the spreadsheets that we got from different data provider, and we really started filtering and excluding all the shipments that we knew they were just background noise for us. So HS code that were not under sanctions, dates that were before the sanctions would enter in place. What else? Like products descriptions that did not match the specific material that is under sanctions. Sometimes you have an HS code that identifies an electronic component for drones, but then you have to also to read the product description that is attached to the trade data and see if it's actually something that can be used for that or not. So yeah, filtering out whatever it's not relevant was the most important thing, I guess. And then just really quickly, a solid background on the legislative framework. So like really knowing what is sanctions, what is under sanction by who, when, and talking to lawyers and lawmakers in the EU bubble always helps for that, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. So mapping your sources and making it work. Elfreda, I'm going to ask you. So you made reference to how you were able to intervene when you didn't see something that ChatGPT gave you, right? I would like to know, from further use of the tools, did you encounter any such incidences? And of course, I'm going to ask this other question that always happens when the conversations about AI and tools like this come into play. Do you think AI is going to take your job as a journalist?
I've been asked this question several times, will AI take your job? I also say that AI as a journalist, especially if you're a field reporter, AI cannot take your job. But you see video editors, AI is possible. There is possibility that AI will actually drag your job with you, because today, a lot of AI is editing, just a single prompt to edit your work. But then, it all depends on your skills as a video editor or video journalist, how you're able to use AI in terms of trying to be equipped with the tools. Then talking about the aspect that you asked on whether I encountered that issue. So I have never encountered such issue since then, before then and after that issue. So that was like the first time I encountered that issue. I was very lucky because we were actually paying, so there was nothing like restriction or holding of anything. So we had enough evidence so that ChatGPT was not giving us what we want, but Gemini gave us. So we have that strong evidence for that. That is it. So AI will not take journalists' work, as it will not take your work. But then, as journalists, it's always advisable that you also be equipped with these tools, because technology is changing. Before now, I read where they say when social media came in, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, nobody will come to social media." People are doing, journalists were saying it was they always read print. But today, most people get their news from social media. So what are we talking about? So we have to just be equipped with the tools. We must not use them, but if you think it or you don't want to use it, but then you know what you can use it for. Because an editor, when I published our News Assist AI in Society for Environmental Journalists, someone asked the same question, whether we AI that is scared that AI is want to take her job. I think that's the senior journalist. That was the question I said, AI will not take your job. But then she said that she analyzed 98 documents. I said, if you manually analyze 98 documents, you use more than 1 hour, for instance, to analyze it, to get the document. And somebody like me, who knows AI, I'm using 20 seconds to get the information, accurate information. Editor, if we go to an interview, editor will prefer me because I can do the job both manually and technologically. I know what to do. So it's just for you to know how to use these tools and then decide whether you want to use it or you don't want to use it.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally, for you, Paulina, I'm going to ask something around the reason why you, I know you mentioned it briefly during your presentation. So there's also usually this difficult conversation around the ethics of going undercover. But for your team, how did you arrive at the decision during, the story to decide to embed yourselves into the system, and why? How did you arrive at the consensus, and what informed that decision?
Thank you. And you're just asking about the undercover aspect,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when my colleague Maya stumbled upon that Telegram group, we had already been looking into Company P for a while. We had looked a little bit at their YouTube videos, at what they had made publicly available. And so we had lots of strong hints that there was more illegal activity that was intentional than we could see, but we couldn't confirm it. So for instance, all of their payments, the majority are available in cryptocurrency. That's super suspicious, but we needed a little bit more to know that, okay, no, it's actually intentional, so that there is no know your customer and based on the roadblocks that we knew we had already, we knew that in order to have a viable chance of learning more that is genuinely incriminating about them, it would make sense to go undercover. I will also say, this is also an ongoing conversation and was back then. For instance, I'm based in Denmark, where we have harsher, more stricter laws around going undercover. And also just me as a person, I can be a bit ginger about it, a little bit gentle, do we really need to? Whereas I think some other colleagues maybe have more experience with it or work in contexts where it is, the route to going undercover is perhaps faster. So I'm not 100% sure that we made the right decision, but I think we made the most ethical choice that we were all comfortable with in a group that we could at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, questions from the audience? Okay, do you need the mic?
Thank you. It's for Paulina. You said that I think you said that you worked with lawyers in your investigation. I just wondered if you could kind of talk about that process, like if there's legal action going on at the moment, like how did that come about? What was the process?
Yes. Okay, so all that I can say is that there are legal proceedings against them in Denmark. That's all that I can say. Sorry. But I can say that it was basically a process of multiple interviews with the lawyer, or the lawyer team. So the initial one, then we found out more, then went back to them with our findings and found out more. So in a way, we sort of, they would validate our findings, and that would help us know where to dig further. And then that means that at the end, we actually found information which we thought could be incriminating, and we brought it to them, and it ended up being genuinely incriminating that they did not know about. So it was a back and forth like this, but it remains to be seen how helpful we were in the end. I hope that we were, but yeah, we won't know until the legal stuff is done, unfortunately.
Someone was at the back, yes.
Wait.
Thank you. This is a question for Eduardo. I was fascinated to learn that you were successfully using freedom of information requests to get shipping data. So there's two questions. One, just to confirm that they were not just sending you redacted bills of lading, because I'd imagine in my head, because of GDPR and things like that they would not. And then the second question, do you have any tips for structuring those freedom of information requests for a shipping data inquiry like this? Were you asking specifically on a HS code, maybe?
Yeah, the second one is a difficult one, I think. Regarding the first one, we didn't necessarily use that for these stories on Russian sanctions, but we used it for a story about Captagon and sanctioned Syrian ships exporting Captagon, so like a synthetic drug from Syria to Europe. In principle, yes, they wouldn't give you full details. I'm pretty sure that company names 95% of the times would not be available in those freedom of information requests. But there are other elements in a bill of lading that can help you confirming things like dates, HS code descriptions, and stuff like that. Yeah, so definitely that. I don't know how it works in other countries. Generally speaking, I would say, yeah, even in other countries, company names would not be in a freedom of information request. But at least in Italy, if we send a request that has to do with a third private party, it's not given that the document would not be available. The public administration is obliged to contact that third party and ask them if they are okay with sharing the data. In some cases, we were lucky and they shared it. Or they asked for a reduction and the public administration granted that. So it's still worth trying. Regarding how to structure them, I think it's difficult, and yeah, it really depends on like laws in your countries as well.
But, sorry, just to clarify, with the Italian ones were you asking specifically for a HS?
Yeah.
All bills of lading relating to that HS?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can include like specific dates, like a range of date maybe, or ports, for instance. If you're interested, and if you know, for instance, that specific goods are flowing through specific ports, then yeah, I would definitely only send the freedom of information request to the regional authority, not to the national one that is in charge to control that port, and ask for HS codes. Container numbers, for instance, can be useful. Not every time they can be public, but yeah, that's a good way to narrow down, because the problem is always sending requests that are too massive and that the authority would reject in principle. So if you try to narrow it down in several ways, that could work out.
Last question. I think you had your hand up. Yes, okay. Any more?
I just wanted to ask. Eduardo.
Wait.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
People behind can hear you.
Hello. Right, Eduardo, just that mention about the story. I'd be interested to know what was the impact or the outcome of that story.
Thanks. I would have liked to talk about this if I had time, so thanks for the question. So basically, a few days after the investigation, the website of the Russian importer owned by Beretta in Italy, through its Luxembourg holding, but never mind, was taken down. So up until our investigation, they were actively advertising their weapons and ammunitions. After the investigation, they stopped. But the company is still opened, and Beretta is still, the last time I checked at least, the main shareholder. After that, the DG FISMA, which is the European Directorate for Economic Affairs, who is in charge of implementing sanctions, they contacted us and they said that they would flag the results of our investigation to national authorities in Italy. I believe nothing will happen on that side because Beretta is very well politically connected and also basically an Italian excellency. It's made in Italy, exported all over the world, so I don't think a lot is going to happen on that side. But lastly and most importantly, approximately 5 months after the investigation, the Office for Foreign Asset Control in the US, OFAC, the body responsible for implementing US sanctions, they actually put under sanctions the Russian importer. So it's not sanctioned in the EU, but at least it's sanctioned in the US. Yeah, thanks.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, time's up. So thank you everyone for joining this conversation and have a great day.